Welcome to the News for San Antonio Spurs Roundtable, powered by Project Spurs. I am your host, Jeff Garcia. And with the final roster spot for the Spurs, could that be given to Greg Oden? To talk about that and a lot more, I am joined by a couple of my fellow Project Spurs writers. Paul Garcia, who just finally decided to show up. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate your appearance. And the new writer on staff, Jason Price of ProjectSpurs.com. Jason, welcome to your show and your debut as well.
Yeah.
And you guys, y'all know what's going to happen sometime next week. Greg Oden, 7-footer, much maligned, injury-prone. That guy, he might be looking at a comeback, and he's looking right now that the front runners are the Heat and the Spurs. Right off the bat, Paul, what are your thoughts?
I think there's a lot of reward for it. It's very little risk. I mean, it's as you said, it's a 15th spot. If this was the guy you're looking for as your starting center right now, you don't have Thiago Splitter or Borussia or someone like that, then I think that would be more of a risk. But it's just, I think it's more you look at the rewards in it. If he pans out.
What are the rewards then?
The rewards, I mean, his last healthy game 3 years ago was 13 points and 20 rebounds in one game. I mean, the guy in college, I remember he played with a broken hand, and he had used his left hand. He still dominated in college basketball. So I think there's a lot more reward in it, and it's very little risk if he doesn't pan out. I don't think they're going to give him a huge deal. Obviously, it's going to be more incentive based on how his health and his minutes go along.
But you're looking at a very small sample size. 22 games. That's the amount of games he had played in the last time he was in the NBA, which is in the 2009-2010 season. Your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, it's been 3 years since he's played. I'm not real sure, like if it's really good for him to be on the Spurs, because he'll be taking up that last roster spot, and they can use that spot for a lot more things other than just adding Greg Oden.
But then what is the allure of Greg Oden? Is it just simply the fact that he's just a big guy? Is that it?
It's not that. It's that if he pans out, you can really get a lot out of him. If he gets back to that stage that he was at, where he can be a dominant, the #1 pick. Before he got drafted before Kevin Durant. That's how good Portland Trailblazers thought he was. If he can get there, I mean, if he can get back to that health status, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. But if he gets there, it obviously pushes the Spurs almost back to that top.
I don't think there's a lot of minutes for him, even if he was to join the Spurs. I mean, the backup center position, not a big role on the Spurs. So it's like, what's it going to take for like the Spurs to like really want to go after him, for him to really want to come here?
And I think that's kind of where San Antonio could play its part, is because they have the Austin Toros, that rehab program. They could send him down there, keep the media off him for a few months, see how he does. Because obviously, Pop's, you're right, Pop's not going to give him minutes in the system right now when they're trying to still chase that 5th championship. They came up so close this past summer. So I think that just having the Toros in that kind of system, you can start working him in. If he does show any kind of marked improvement, then maybe by January, February, you can bring him down to San Antonio and start putting him into the lineup. I mean, and you're right, backup centers don't get a lot of minutes here. He pretty much goes down to 8 guys in the rotation come playoff time. But I mean, if he somehow does get that, I mean, I'm very optimistic too about his injuries. I don't know if he can come back from this. You're right, he hasn't played a lot of basketball. But I mean, if he does, there's more reward than there is risk.
You had 43 games grand total. That's the grand total of games that Greg Oden has played in his NBA career.
Yeah, he's not very reliable health-wise at this point in his career. It's a wash, really, to even.
Well, not to mention those injuries that he suffered. They're degenerative. They look like he might be having to live in this for.
There's no telling when his knees are going to go out again. I mean, really, the best fit for him would, if he's looking for minutes and a role on a team, would be New Orleans, because they have a vacant spot there for center. But with the Spurs, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I welcome if he does come to Spurs. If he chooses San Antonio, I doubt he does. I think New Orleans is the most intriguing.
What about this? Does this factor into anything? Right, the Heat and San Antonio, they're reportedly the front runners.
They were as before today. Now it's the Pelicans and Heat. But I mean, you see that. You see 2 title-contending teams going after this guy. And the Spurs have been interested in him since last August. It's been almost a year now. So obviously they see something that most of us don't in him. A lot of those title-contending teams like the Heat.
It could be the fact that he's just. I mean, I think people are forgetting about this. We all what's the running joke that he looks a lot older than his age?
Yeah, he's only 25.
He's only 25 years old. How much does that change your mind in any way?
Not really, because we've seen kind of almost the same thing with Brandon Roy happen, where he has almost a career-ending injury, and he's trying to play through it. And he's just going to end up breaking down again at some point, and it's not real good in the Spurs' point of view to add him to the roster. That's just what I think.
Right.
I still think they're just taking that, they're going with that reward. If he does choose San Antonio, if he chooses them, they're going to welcome him and try to start working with the rehab type program. But if they don't, I mean, yeah, it's the 15th spot. You're not going to lose much.
Well, we're talking about the size that the Spurs need, and that's been like how long we've heard that for seasons on end. Spurs need size. Spurs need size. Greg Oden obviously will fill that role. But what about the odd man out if this happens? Aaron Baines. Is that going to hurt or help him?
I think it's going to hurt him. If they do add Oden, you have to think the Spurs are going to cut ties with Baines, because what is the point of carrying 2 backup centers, I think almost 6 big guys on the roster for a team that likes to play a lot of small ball? So Baines will almost have to be the odd man out.
I understand that point. I don't think you're going to get much for Baines. I don't think you can trade him. I think he only makes like $800,000 this season, and it's a team option next year.
You got Aaron
you
Baines,
do have a lot of
who's
centers,
younger. He's young. He's a lot more physical. He can take more punishment. Doesn't have history of knee issues. Doesn't have any of that. But yet, you think the Spurs should go after a guy who maybe has that type of risk?
Yeah, you still go after him because the reward that he can give you. I'm not saying I think Baines would stay on the team. I'm saying if they do sign Oden somehow, they're gonna send him to Austin. Let him.
No, don't get mad.
Sorry.
I'm throwing stuff at me now.
They're gonna say he's not gonna be an impact player, starting in November and December. If anything, I don't even know if he plays this season. It could be to the following season. He's really up to par. I think that's the thing, is he's not a guy that you're gonna sign to get him in there right now and start playing max minutes. It's going to be maybe a 1-year thing.
Do you think they would want to keep a full roster of guys and not have that last spot open by keeping Oden and Baines together?
I mean, it's the 15th spot. I think you could just send him to the D League and wait there, and then come playoff time, he's going to send a suit behind it. Baines is going to send a suit as well. I think Baines, he's the healthier one. He's there to be there, but until Greg Oden shows that he's Greg Oden again.
Right.
I think Baines stays on the roster.
Yeah, well, obviously you can tell this is a very huge, big topic right now among Spurs fans. It is the offseason, but my goodness, this is like a really big coup if the Spurs pick up Greg Oden, but we shall see. Obviously, Paul and Jason, they have their difference of opinions, but make sure to go out to ProjectSpurs.com and, of course, News4SanAntonio.com to talk about this topic and, of course, the next topic, which is real quick right now. The Summer League is over. It's done. Talking about that last roster spot. Had anybody impress you with the you saw out there in Vegas?
Deshaun Thomas, through the first 3 games, showed he could really score the basketball. He might be a viable option at the small forward position, backup Kawhi Leonard at some point. It's really up in the air right now if it's going to be this season or maybe next season, because we're tied up with the roster situation, and it just doesn't. It might not make a lot of sense,
Right.
But we're going to find out come training camp.
Right.
If he's going to be in that spot.
Your 15th spot would be Deshaun Thomas, right? Paul?
I think you leave the spot open. I didn't see anybody aside from the 3 guys already on roster that really impressed. Deshaun Thomas, he had defensive issues, both as a forward in the low post, and then when they put him out in that final game at the small forward position.
Well, in the NBA, his size, he's like a tweener.
He needs to be, but he needs to. They need a guy to back up Kawhi Leonard at small forward. He really had a lot of defensive issues, keeping up with the quicker guys on the wing, and then offensively he couldn't get going.
And I'd say this much: as for me personally, when I was looking at the games, a guy that I really thought had a lot of pressure on his shoulders to show something was Ryan Richards.
Oh.
And once again, he kind of fell flat, except for one game.
He had that final game where
he
really took guys to the post and really executed. But obviously, looking at his minutes per game, it shows you that the Spurs weren't really confident that he's ready yet. Because I think if they were ready to see what he could really do, they would have given him minutes consistent. They gave Dexter Pittman more minutes than they did Ryan Richards, and I think that right there just showed you already that they're still maybe waiting another year and year up before. He's only 22 years old, so he's still a young kid out there.
Right. It's going to be another year or two before you see Richards come over. He didn't get a lot of run. It was disappointing, but he looked good in the little bit of time he did show whenever he was out on the court. But overall, he's going to be a development kind of guy.
And are we all in agreement that we need to see the Corey Joseph that we saw in Vegas heading into next season, that very vocal, directing
aggressive
everybody,
Corey
very
Joseph.
aggressive. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he was healthy, I think, for 4 games, then he got hurt. Actually 3 games. But yeah, Corey was very aggressive. Offensively, he was running the system, getting the guys where they needed to be, passing the ball, defensively, checking up on guys, just like Ime Udoka wanted him to do. And so I think he really showed he could be that solid backup point guard option.
Yeah, and now there's room for him to impress now that Gary Neal is no longer with the team. Well, those are our thoughts right there on the Summer League. And, of course, the big topic, we'll find out. Well, probably tomorrow by the time you're watching this show.
Could be Monday.
Could be Monday, could be sometime in the week, but we'll know Greg Oden is a Spur or not. But for Paul Garcia and for Jason Price, I am Jeff Garcia. Thanks again for watching the News 4 San Antonio Spurs Roundtable.